Scattaboo! What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Defense. That's what we're talking about today. The New York Giants' new defensive line and how great it looks on paper and how excited we are for the Giants to finally have their identity back. They look like they have an elite defensive line entering the 2025 season. We're excited to go ahead and talk about it. Talk about Abdul Carter joining this defensive line that already had a second-team All-Pro in Dexter Lawrence, already had a Pro Bowl talent in Brian Burns, and a former top-5 pick in Kayvon Thibodeau, along with Darius Alexander in the third round joining this defensive front that also has a couple nice linebackers with Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. Now, all that talent that the Giants had last year, did it amount into a lot of wins? No, absolutely not. However, this year, they really patched up a lot of holes on the defense, and we know that they did make a major upgrade at quarterback with Russell Wilson. So we're feeling pretty optimistic going into 2025. And if there's one reason to be optimistic about this team, one reason to get excited about watching the New York Giants play on Sundays, Thursdays, and Mondays in 2025, it is that defensive line that should absolutely torment opposing quarterbacks. So that's what we're excited to go ahead and discuss in today's episode. We're going to dive in about the New York Giants' new identity on the defensive side of the ball. But before we do that, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how excited are you to watch this new front four, really front five of the Giants defensive linemen get after the quarterback this upcoming season?
I'm doing pretty good, my friend. And yeah, we're a little bit more optimistic looking ahead to the 2025 season than we were maybe a few weeks ago. This draft class was excellent, and the Giants have regained their identity, a word I've been using for quite some time now. And it seems that they're turning back the clock and building what looks to be an elite defensive line. Finally, on paper, they have an elite unit. And I want to make that very clear. On paper, I got to see it to believe it as a Giants fan. Man, I've been optimistic, Anthony. We've been optimistic many times over the years, but the truth is they've kind of shot us in the face every time we tried to be optimistic, for lack of a better word. Like, they've just really punched us in the mouth every time we wanted to be positive, every time we wanted to have something to look forward to. But I think this group is too talented to fail. Like, we've been excited about some underrated pieces, some low-key guys, but truth is, this defensive line is stacked to the brim with talent. You know what I mean? Abdul Carter is a tremendous prospect. Brian Burns is a proven talent. Dexter Lawrence is arguably the best defensive player in the league. We have the talent to be a great elite unit in the NFL. The Giants just have to not shoot themselves in the foot. They got to put their best foot forward instead. So I'm pretty excited about what this defense is going to look like. I wrote this morning about Tyler Nubin. We talked about Tyler Nubin on yesterday's podcast, how he's going to be moving into this kind of strong safety role and helping to support the run. And the Giants are trying to stop the run at a much higher level this upcoming season with the drafting of Darius Alexander, a better interior, Bobby Okereke, as you mentioned, Micah McFadden, and then Nubin, whose strength at this point in his career is the run. So, lots of guys are going to be hopefully going into positions and situating themselves in spots where they can leverage their strengths. And that is what good football teams do. They put players in positions to maximize their strengths. Offensively, they're trying to do the same thing. But, on the defensive side, Anthony, I think we can start there in terms of run defense. Do you expect a much better defense in that regard? Do you think that this team has a much better talent? And how do you project that they'll take a big step forward, or hope that they take a big step forward in 2025?
I think the run defense is going to be a lot better this upcoming season. I think one of the elements of Abdul Carter's game that not enough people talk about is his ability to contribute as a run defender. Yes, he's an elite pass rusher. Yes, he has an elite get off. He's got the utmost athleticism for an edge rusher that you could ever dream for. All those things are true. Guy still had 24 tackles for loss last season, led college football in that statistic. He was in the backfield often, in a hurry, tackling running backs, tackling quarterbacks on designed runs. He's setting the edge. He's getting into the interior. He's a former off-ball linebacker, so his ability to read those gaps, shoot those gaps, and make those run fits, it's all there. He's got a very unique and versatile skill set to not only contribute as a pass rusher, as we all anticipate him to be, but also as a premier run defender. So I'm really excited for Abdul Carter in that regard. And I think he's going to be the biggest upgrade that the New York Giants have on this defense in terms of stopping the run. But additionally, they also drafted number 65 overall in this year's draft, Darius Alexander, in the third round. That kid can stop the run. He plugs holes. I mean, that's another 300-pounder right there on the defensive line alongside Dexter Lawrence. One of the main issues that the Giants had last year when trying to stop the run was the fact that Dexter Lawrence wasn't on the field sometimes. He got hurt, had elbow surgery, out for the rest of the season. I think that was in like week 9. He was banged up a couple times prior to that. But if Dexter Lawrence stays healthy this year, him plus that 300-pound rookie in Darius Alexander, and they've still got a little bit of depth with a guy like Raheem Nunez-Roches and the depth piece that they added this offseason with Ledbetter and also Roy Robertson-Harris. Those guys are run defensive centric. So you've got a lot of guys plugging into the interior of this defensive line who can stop the run and really boost that regard. But you also have a premier edge rusher joining the fold who's very good at setting the edge and getting in the backfield to make tackles for loss. So you've got a couple of massive upgrades. We've talked a lot about how the Giants pass rush is going to look scary, going to look dangerous, maybe remind us of those Super Bowl winning teams. Obviously, they need to put it on the field and live up to these expectations first. But we've talked a lot about that pass rush. Maybe we haven't talked enough about how much the Giants have upgraded their ability to stop the run with some of these rookies and veterans that they brought in this offseason. So that's been one of the Giants' kryptonites in recent years, right? Stopping the run has been a major difficulty for them. They haven't had depth, they've had injuries, and they really just haven't had enough premier top-end talent to stop the run. But hey, we all heard John Mara's message loud and clear at the end of the season. He spoke to the media and he said he was sick and tired of watching teams run up and down our defense. So what did the Giants do? They added a bunch of talent on the defensive line that not only gets after the quarterback, but also plays both ways, stops the run, prevents those teams from running up and down the field against our defense. So John Mara's message was heard loud and clear by Joe Schoen, by Shane Bowen, and all these guys working to build up that defense. They went ahead and built it through and through, and now that front seven looks like it should be able to stop the run and do so at a pretty efficient manner.
I believe it will, and I think that this team has more than enough talent to get the job done there. Shane Bowen had a pretty good run-stopping defense, or was a part of them back with the Titans, so hopefully he can find that level of success with the Giants. But listen, that was kind of what hurt the Giants the most last year. Teams just established the run, and they didn't have to pass against us. And when they did, it was completely exposed and open and available because the Giants were trying to stack the box just to limit the production teams were having. So, when you can establish the ground game, it opens up your entire passing game, and it opens up play action. And teams like the Eagles, teams like the Commanders, they're going to take advantage of you if you cannot stop the run. And the Cowboys too. I do think that they're going to be more effective now with more talent there. So, at the moment, I do think the Giants recognized their opponents. And I think that was part of what made it so critical that they actually addressed the defensive line the way they did, because I'm pretty sure was it Brian Dable or Joe Schoen said, we have to face two mobile quarterbacks twice a year. We have to have a good run stopping defense. It's non-negotiable. And I think that what they did in the secondary, adding Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo, also helps in a lot of ways too, because now, the play action isn't going to be as effective. The downfield passing game isn't going to be as effective. Holland's a really good ball hawk. Newman's a really good run stopper. Now I'm curious to see how he develops in that strong safety role. But as a pass rushing unit, Anthony, the sky's the limit for this group. I don't even want to put expectations on them because I don't really know if I can set accurate ones. I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not going to say they're going to be elite. I'm not going to say they're going to be this or that, because truly it's up to them. They've got the talent to be one of the best, if not the best, pass rushing group in the sport. It just comes down to the schematics. It comes down to the packages. It comes down to the individual player and how they develop, how they take to the coaching, how they take to this new rotation they have going. But, we talked about it a little bit on the live stream yesterday, and I want to get your take on it again. How do you think this rotation goes now? I mean, Burns, obviously Thibodeau, Abdul Carter, Chauncey Golston, you have some names here now. You got some pieces here now. I think that this is going to be a dangerous unit because they're all going to be healthy. Abdul Carter does not play every snap. You know what I mean? Burns should not be playing every snap. Thibodeau shouldn't be playing every snap. I think this group is going to be even more effective than we could imagine because they're going to be fresh and healthy when the fourth quarter comes around. How important do you think that is to the game plan moving forward?
I think it's crucial. Listen, fresh legs, right? We've talked a lot about that. I mean, we saw games last season where Brian Burns was on the field for in excess of 80% and 90% of the Giants' defensive snaps. That should never happen, right? Your edge rusher, who you want out there on passing downs, getting after the quarterback, sure, defending the run as well, but mainly on those passing downs fresh to get after the quarterback. You don't want those guys playing nearly 100% of your defensive snaps. That's unhealthy. That's how you get injured. That's how you get weaknesses in the defensive front. That's how you fail to stop the run, by having all of your defenders, fatigued, especially when you're talking about your pass rushers on the edges, because they're going up against those big 6'8" hulking offensive tackles play after play. You want to give those guys some rest when they're going after some offensive linemen just like that. So I think it's crucial that the Giants actually do get a good rotation plan in place here. And I think one thing that we've seen, Alex, is a lot of injuries on the defensive line, as we've talked about, guys playing banged up. Brian Burns played through several injuries last year. Kayvon Thibodeau missed time due to injuries. But now that the Giants actually have some decent depth on this defensive line, I think this rotation can work out, can keep these guys fresh and keep them healthy throughout the course of the regular season. And one of the things that we love to talk about when we're reminiscing on the New York Giants of the past is that NASCAR package, right? We all know what that is. We all love it. It's when the Giants just took all the big hog mollies off the field, the defensive interior guys, took them off the field, and boom, just throw 4 pass rushers, pure edge rusher pass rushers on the field and let them get after the quarterback. I don't think we see the NASCAR package for the New York Giants this upcoming season, because that would require taking Dexter Lawrence off the field, but we'll see something pretty similar, right? Like we'll get Dexter Lawrence as the one interior defender on the field. And then who are the other 3 down linemen? That's Brian Burns, that's Kayvon Thibodeau, and that's Abdul Carter. And think about that. Think about the amount of pass rushing talent and prowess that's going to be hitting an offensive line when those 4 players take the field together. And that's not going to be every play. That's going to be on some plays. There's going to be other plays where the Giants are going to want to drop one of those edge rushers off the field, and they're going to want Darius Alexander out there to help stop the run, or just to anticipate that a run could be coming. But when it's 3rd and long and you need to get after the quarterback, even if it's like 3rd and 4, but it's a team that tends to pass on 3rd downs, we all know that these defensive coordinators study tendencies. Let's say this team that we're facing, maybe it's the Commanders, whoever, has a tendency to throw when it's 3rd and short, 4th and short. Okay, so take Darius Alexander off the field. Throw Dexter Lawrence out there with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter. Right now, we've got this rotation going. It's a situational rotation. So when you're playing situational football, you're planning for matchups and you're creating advantages on your defensive line to get after the quarterback. And that is how you win football games. That is smart defensive play calling. That is, you got to have a good defensive coordinator to execute that game plan, but that's game planning. That's how you beat some of the best teams in the NFL. Maybe the Giants don't have the most talented roster. They don't have several all-pros on both sides of the ball like the Eagles do and some of these other great teams in the NFC. But you know what? If they can win through game planning, through coaching, that's how you create upsets. The New York Giants, let's be real. Did they have the better team in Super Bowl 42? Did they have the better roster in Super Bowl 46? They won with game planning. Also with heart, determination, all those other great things, sure. But I mean, Steve Spagnuolo's game plan in that 08 Super Bowl was unbelievable. You couldn't beat that. Game planning can make such a difference. So really what I think is it's all going to come down to, we're talking about the identity this defensive line has. We're talking about the talent that it has. It's going to come down to game planning. Is Shane Bowen up to the task? Is he going to be able to get these guys rotated in a proper manner, to game plan, to get these guys on the field situationally where their strengths will be maximized and their weaknesses will be minimized? These are the big questions that the Giants defense faces. You know, I don't have questions about Abdul Carter. I don't have questions about Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns. Sure, maybe I have a couple of questions for Kayvon Thibodeau, but I think he's going to answer those questions this upcoming season. I think all the talent around him is going to allow him to get more one-on-one opportunities and play a better brand of football. But really, my main questions with this Giants team and with this defense lie with the coordinator, Shane Bowen. Can you find a way to get these guys on the field at the right times and maximize their talent situationally and game plan to win some games for the New York Giants? Because at the end of the day, all the talent in the world does not matter if you're DC or your OC even on the other side of the ball. If your coordinator doesn't know how to game plan and situationally apply your talents to the football field to outsmart your opponents. So I think that's what it really comes down to, Alex. I love the rotation that the Giants have built. We haven't even talked about some of the depth guys that they have, right? Of course, Chauncey Golston is a player that they signed in free agency. He's coming off of a career year with the Dallas Cowboys, had 6 sacks last year. So another good player right there. But we didn't even talk about that, and we don't really need to because the Giants starting unit is filled with talent and depth. But it's just all going to come down to Shane Bowen. Can he figure it out? Can he game plan? Because as we know, Alex, game planning can make all the difference. And I think that's the big question for you. What do you think about Shane Bowen? What kind of trust do you have in him? Is it just all question marks? Do you have some sort of hope that he can figure it out? How are you feeling about Shane Bowen? Is he up to the task to properly coach the amount of talent that the Giants have on this defensive line?
Short answer, probably not. I guess we have no choice but to give him the benefit of the doubt. But Shane Bowen last year was a disaster. Players were not playing, to their strengths. We saw multiple guys take steps in the wrong direction. Notably, Deonte Banks you just can't justify that. You can't. Now, I will say this. I'll give him a bit of credit. Andrew Phillips had a really good rookie season, which was encouraging. Tyler Nubin has showed flashes of competency. Brian Burns was solid despite being injured. Tibbs was inconsistent, usual for him. There were guys that stepped up and others that didn't. Can we blame it all on Shane Bowen? Probably not. I mean, the players have to go and actually do their jobs to begin with. Deontay Banks' problem, he regressed, right? That they fired Jerome Henderson because of it, by the way. So, when you look at Deontay Banks and really the role and really what his red flags were, I don't think Shane Bowen could have done much to stop some of the things that were happening. For example, like he really struggled to turn his head in coverage. He really struggled to get his head around to make plays on the ball. That is his fault. There's nothing Shane Bowen could have done there. I mean, you could say that if you had a better free safety, you might have had more help over the top or whatever it might be. But what are you thinking?
That's not where I was going to go with it. I was going to go with the fact that the Giants played a lot of man coverage last year. I know that we talked about, Shane Bowen likes to run zone coverage. He really didn't. The Giants still ran top 10 most man coverage in the NFL last season. When you're playing man coverage, where are you, Alex, as a defensive back? Back is to the quarterback. That's why Deontay Banks kept getting head topped. He couldn't see the ball coming in. The difference between playing man and zone, in man coverage, you are trailing, you are following a wide receiver. In zone coverage, you're leaving everything in front of you. You're reading the quarterback, reacting to the throw, and getting on the football and getting on the wide receiver. The Giants didn't play enough zone coverage last year. Yeah, maybe they played more than they did under Wink Martindale. Okay, congrats. Wink Martindale hates zone coverage, so obviously you're playing more zone coverage than Wink Martindale was, but you still weren't playing enough. The Giants were in man coverage too often, and it left them exposed. You're right, the safeties and the upgrades that the Giants have made there might help them in man coverage, but I'd rather just see them run less man coverage. We always talk about this. Deontay Banks was touted as this man press corner coming out of college. He never was a man press corner, and I've made this point so many times on the show. All the way through his entire career, collegiate and NFL, he's always struggled statistically in man coverage. He had man coverage traits, right? He's got speed, he's got athleticism, he's got strength when he's jamming, he's got good tackling, right? Like he had man coverage traits coming out of college, but he never played a lot of man coverage in college. He's never been that great at it, but he's always been great at sitting in his zone when the ball is in his sight line, the quarterback is in his sight line, read, react, make the plays then. But when his back is to the football, his back is to the quarterback, and that ball comes in, the receiver's got an advantage over Deontay Banks because you're right. He doesn't get his head turned around quickly enough, but that's because the Giants were playing too much man coverage, putting him in these vulnerable situations and not maximizing his strengths. So that's why I do have questions. Can he maximize this defensive line, create that identity with this defensive line? I don't know if he can, because Shane Bowen last year, I thought, really struggled to maximize the strengths of Deontay Banks and instead played him more to his weaknesses. Yes, he had those projectable traits where maybe he could develop into a man cover corner, but man, let him play some zone coverage. Let him do his read and react. That was so successful for him when he was at Maryland in his collegiate career. So that's the big difference for me, Alex. I think the Giants need to make a shift. They need to be in more zone coverage. You could still blitz. You don't have to run zero man coverage all the time if you want to blitz and get after it. You could create some disguised blitzes through zone coverages and allow Deontay Banks not to have his back to the football, but to read and react to the quarterback, have the quarterback in his sight line, keep everything in front of him, and break on the ball. That's how you'll maximize Banks. That's how you get him to use his athleticism to break and close out speed on these footballs and be a whole lot better at the cornerback position this year. I truly believe that more zone coverage is the solution for Deontay Banks and his struggles through the early portion of his career.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that Banks got beat up a lot of times on, in breaking routes. I watched CeeDee Lamb carve him to shreds, just beating him on the inside. I think that when he's able to use the boundary as that like de facto defender, he has a lot more success. I do think that he needs to get a little bit better when it comes to just ball tracking and even in man, even when he is trailing, to get his head around and recognize when a receiver is going up to make a catch, when they're putting their hands up, watching their eyes. There is a lot of different telltale signs that cornerbacks look for in a receiver when they're, going to make a catch. I thought he was poor at a lot of those critical catch points last season. But like you said, he thrived in his zone coverage system. He did a lot of obviously both with Wink Martindale, did a lot of both with Shane Bowen. But that defense, now you have Javon Holland, who you can trust in the defensive backfield at free safety. You're not going to get beat over the top all the time now. Not that the teams had to, because they were really just running all over us and nobody could tackle on our team, which is a big problem. But I think Banks, what he needs is, and now we're going on a little bit of a tangent in the secondary now. It's supposed to be talking about the defensive line, but that's totally okay because it all connects at the end of the day. I think that Banks's confidence is what is hurt the most. He's talented. He's athletic. This guy should be a good player. He's the perfect candidate of a guy that leaves the Giants and has a great career elsewhere. If the Giants couldn't figure it out, same thing with Thibodeau, to be honest. So, looking at Banks, what he needs is confidence, and the Giants gave him a reason to be confident, and that reason is he doesn't have to get torched by CeeDee Lambs every week, or Justin Jefferson's every week, or AJ Brown's every week. He gets to go against WR2s now, and that's going to be a really good opportunity for him to be a secondary piece where he doesn't have to be the guy, and I think that that's going to help him rebuild his confidence week by week, day by day, until he's playing like a high-end CB2, and that will be the growth arc that we're looking for from him. The confidence, I think, will return. Paulson Adebo will help him a lot. And also just having a veteran experience. Like, he was really good buddies with Xavier McKinney. And I think McKinney was a big factor in that locker room, not just as a leader, but also a mentor for some of those corners, some of those youngsters. He lost that mentor. And then Banks suddenly was looking to his right, looking to his left, and saying, well, that guy's younger than me and Tyler Nubin. That guy's younger than me and Andrew Phillips. You know what I mean? Jason Pinnock is not very good, let's be honest. And then you look over at Adoree Jackson, who, is one stop away from a freaking old home, elder home. Like, you're like, okay, I don't think that guy's very good. Two guys that are next to me don't even have a lick of experience in the NFL. And my strong safety, I'm not looking to him for support, because it's not like, they play similar positions. So I think that Banks was kind of left out on an island, and they were like, good luck, buddy. And he was like, I need support here, whether it be via the coaching staff, whether it be via my teammates, whether it be a leadership. The Giants didn't have a lick of leadership in that secondary last year, and it showed. So I do think if you are the Giants, Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland are humongous, not just because of their tangible traits, but because of their leadership traits and because of their effort traits, because of their proven, production in the past. Banks is going to benefit from that. Banks is going to benefit from having that type of leadership around him and that type of experience around him. So I'm pretty excited about his rebound. If I was a betting man, I would bet on Banks having a much better season in 2025 than he did last year. So, another one, you heard it here first. We're both on the boat. I think, at least Anthony, I think you are too, that we're both feeling that Banks could have a nice little rebound season.
Yeah, I think so. I really hope so as well, because again, there are some factors that I think can really help him. I think the defensive line, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand quicker, is obviously going to help Banks and everybody else in the secondary. Pass rush is the great way to kind of mask some of your deficiencies in the secondary. So I think the pass rush is going to help Banks. And I also think if the Giants get the scheme down right and they maximize his strengths through zone coverage, he can have a much better year in 2025. So there's definitely potential for the Banks breakout season. I'm holding out hope for it. Really don't want him to be another first-round draft pick bust for the New York Giants. I mean, so much talent coming out of college. The Giants just got to find a way to utilize it and get him going and playing to his strengths. But, Alex, before we get out of here, I think we did have a really good conversation. Obviously, we went down the beaten path and started talking about the secondary a little bit. But as you said, it all ties in. Let's shift focus back to the defensive line for a quick second before we get out of here. And I know that we've been doing this overreaction segment sporadically here on the channel. And I saw somebody leave a comment. I can't remember who, but shout out to you. I'm sure you know who you are if you are listening. And sorry that I forgot who left the comment, but the comment was an overreaction in reaction to our overreaction segment that we did on Monday. And I just want to throw it at you, Alex. Is it an overreaction to say that Abdul Carter is going to finish the season with over 8.5 sacks?
I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think that he is going to be a different element than teams have seen from the Giants off the edge in many years. And I think that he's a unique talent in that regard. Against slow-footed, heavier offensive linemen, he's going to dominate them. Guys who are predicated more on strength and don't have as much athleticism, the Giants should be proactive putting a guy like Abdul Carter off the edge against those slow-footed tackles. He's going to murk them, to be honest. His bend, his speed, his reaction timing, they will not be able to catch up. He's going to get, I think he could be a double-digit sack guy for the first year of his career. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he blew past 10 sacks pretty easily as long as he stays healthy. I am optimistic about his production.
Cool. I have two other overreactions for you. The second one being, is it an overreaction to say that the New York Giants will have 3 pass rushers reach double-digit sacks this season?
It's definitely possible. I mean, look, if Carter could be like that, have 10 plus sacks, which I think is totally possible. Burns could be as well, because we've seen him do it in the past, and Dexter Lawrence could easily get 10. So I don't think that that's crazy at all. I think that, I wouldn't say it's probable, but I'd say it's a 50-50 shot that happens.
Yeah, and don't discount the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau has gone for double-digit sacks before as well in a tough system to do that in with Wink Martindale. He's the first to ever do that in a Wink Martindale system, and Wink Martindale's been coaching for longer than we have been watching football even. So, I mean, listen, there's definitely the potential for it. And last one for you. Is it an overreaction to say that the New York Giants will finish top 5 in the NFL this season in total defensive sacks?
I don't think that's crazy at all. With the pass rush this defense
top
has,
three.
as long, I mean, again, like I don't even know how good they could be. Like top 3 might be an overreaction because I just literally do not know. But top 10 for sure, top 5, I could see it if they live up to the potential. They could be the best. You know what I mean? Like that's how many good players they have on the defensive front. It really just is up to them. Like yeah, they could be number 1 for all I know. That's how much talent they have, but it's not about talent all the time. It's about being healthy. And Shane Bowen, like figuring out how to maximize these guys and putting them, leveraging their skill sets against players, specific tackles or interior guys. Like it's totally possible. Like I'm not going to rule anything out for this defensive line.
All right, fine. So we didn't have any overreactions there. So I got to try one more time. I said I was going to do 3. I got to throw a 4th one out there. Is it an overreaction to say that the Giants are going to finish this upcoming season with over 63 total sacks as a team defense? Now, I'm pretty sure that the most in the NFL last season was 63. Do you think they beat that number this upcoming season with this new revamped defensive front?
I don't think this season, but I could see it in 2026 being a possibility. I think they're going to have I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get the right, like, kind of equation down. And by the time they figure it out, like, then they'll start to pick up pace. But you got to be on a hell of a pace to get 63 total sacks in a season. So, I don't think this season, but maybe if they put it all together in 2026 and they figure out the equation, maybe. But it's a lot of production there.
All right, so we'll call that one an overreaction. All right, finally we got one.
Yeah,
so,
I'll call that.
All right, fair enough. The Broncos were the team that had 63 sacks last season. The only team that was close to them, they weren't even close. Number 2 in the NFL was the Baltimore Ravens at 54. So 63 is quite a number. If the Giants somehow are able to match that number or exceed that number, yeah, they should have one of the best defenses in the NFL because the Denver Broncos did last year, and they had 63 total sacks. So 63, that's the number to beat. That's the challenge that I'm putting out there into the ether for the New York Giants. And man, would I love to see them reach, exceed, crush that number this upcoming season. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But I think that pretty much wraps this one up. Listen, the New York Giants do have that identity that we've talked about. It might be a little bit of a throwback, as one of our viewers said in a super chat this week, a back to the future moment for the New York Giants, an Ole Miss quarterback and a fearsome defensive line. That's the identity of this team. It's an exciting future that the New York Giants are building. I really hope that it all pans out. I hope they pick up some wins this year. I hope Russell Wilson reaches expectations. His defensive line does the same, and that maybe we see some jobs get saved by some wins this year, and we have a bright future going into 2026. I want to see all these things. I'm optimistic that we will see these things for the first time in a long time. Feeling excited, feeling good. And obviously, as we've said, so much more to come here on the Fireside Giants channel as we continue to break down this team all throughout the offseason. July is going to be fun when training camp rolls around, and then August, of course, we've got preseason. And then before you know it, man, the year's going to fly on by, and it's in September. It's just going to be here right around the corner, and we're going to be watching Abdul Carter wearing whichever number he's going to select for himself, but also a big blue jersey, and getting out after the quarterback this upcoming season. So really excited. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.